Title: The Smile Behind the Partition. The summer I turned 20, I landed an internship at a finance company in the city center. The job wasn't anything spectacular, mostly data entry and keeping my eyes glued to a computer screen. But the pay was decent, and more importantly, it looked good on a resume. Our office was an open-plan space where interns were crammed into tight rows of desks separated by partitions so low they were laughable, enough to create a false sense of privacy, but nowhere near enough to hide from the prying eyes of others. Among the 7 interns, most were just normal, likable college students. But there was one exception: Alex. From the very first meeting, Alex exuded something off. He was lanky and gaunt, with pale, lifeless skin and long, greasy black hair that looked like it hadn't been washed in a week. But his appearance wasn't the scariest part. What sent chills down my spine was his behavior, especially toward me. It started slowly. Occasionally, while I was typing, I'd feel eyes on me. When I looked up, I'd see the top of Alex's head slowly rising above the cubicle partition. Because he was so tall and the walls were so low, he looked like a grotesque crane stalking its prey. He didn't speak normally. He would tilt his head and bare his teeth in a smile, a stiff, distorted grin that looked like it was painted onto a mask, and start speaking in a whispering, slurred voice full of mockery. "Workin' hard, or hardly workin', eh, Ronnie?" At first, I forced a laugh to brush it off, thinking he was just an eccentric trying to get attention. But the frequency of these visits increased. Every day, at least once, his head would sprout up from behind the partition, his eyes glued to me, his mouth mumbling nonsense. The other interns just giggled, thinking he was joking, but I knew. I was the sole victim of this sick performance. The breaking point came when he started standing there for minutes on end, saying nothing, just staring at me with that frozen smile. Then one day, Alex disappeared. I heard he was fired for laziness and a weird attitude. I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking the office nightmare was over. But I was wrong. About a week later, while I was having dinner at home, my phone rang from an unknown number. I picked up. The line was silent for a few seconds. Then that haunting, drawling voice spoke. "The tide is coming in. Pull your boat out of the water." Immediately after came a burst of manic, piercing laughter, sounding like the screech of someone who had completely lost their mind. He hung up before I could process it. Waves of goosebumps washed over me. I had never given Alex my phone number. Where did he get it? And what did that sentence mean? The silence that stretched over the following week made me slowly let my guard down, until a Friday morning around 5 a.m. It was still pitch black, with only a faint, sickly gray light filtering through the curtains. I woke up to a strange sound outside, a sense of unease urging me to the window. Parting the curtains slightly, my heart stopped. Standing in the middle of my backyard, right on the boundary between the porch light and the darkness of the trees, was a lanky silhouette. Even in the dark, I instantly recognized that rod straight posture and the messy hair. It was Alex. He stood motionless, his face tilted up, looking straight at my bedroom window, as if he knew exactly where I was. In that moment of sheer terror, before I could even move, his voice pierced the quiet night. "Ronnie!" He dragged my name out like a deadly lullaby. I scrambled to grab my phone to call the police, my hands shaking uncontrollably. Right then, down in the yard, Alex threw his head back and started laughing. It was that same insane, screaming laughter from the phone call. His laugh echoed through the quiet early morning air, sounding inhuman. I screamed down that I had called the police. He stopped laughing, stood there frozen for a few seconds, then slowly turned his back and walked into the darkness of the woods behind the house, his giggling still drifting back to me. The police arrived, but found nothing. Since he hadn't broken in or attacked, there wasn't much they could do. Alex vanished without a trace, like a ghost dissolving into the void. Years have passed. I've changed jobs, moved houses, but every time I wake up at dawn and look out into the dark window, I still shudder. I still wonder, how did he get my number? How did he know my house? And most importantly, that morning, if I hadn't woken up, what was he planning to do?